Welcome, grade 9 students of St. Paul American School, Clark. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today for this explainer covering General English 9, Unit 7, Lesson 2. Have you ever read a poem or a story and just felt like the author was hiding a secret message just out of reach? Well, today, we're going to fix that. We're building your literary detective's toolkit, equipping you with the exact strategies you need to analyze diction, structure, and figurative language.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our visual roadmap shows exactly what we're packing into our kit today. Unlocking meaning in texts, analyzing diction and tone, examining structure, form, and lines, decoding metaphors, similes, and personification, clearing up a major misconception with a formative check, and finally, a quick recap of our key concepts.
Section 1. Unlocking meaning in texts. Let's start with our very first step and figure out what literary analysis actually entails.
I want to reassure you right off the bat, guys. Deciphering a piece of writing, it is not some innate superpower. It's definitely not magical guesswork where you just stare at a page hoping a feeling mysteriously washes over you. No, it's a highly methodical process. Think of it like this. You are the detective, and the words on the page are the literal, physical evidence left behind by the author. Your job is simply to look at that evidence, examine how it was put together, and figure out why.
Section 2. Analyzing diction and tone. This is perhaps the most crucial tool in our new kit, examining the weight of the words themselves. This is what we call diction. Diction is simply the intentional word choices or a pattern of choices that an author makes. Because let's be real, authors don't just pick words randomly because they sound nice. They pick them to convey deeper meaning and to dictate the tone or mood of the text. Words carry multiple layers of meaning way beyond just their basic dictionary definitions. They carry feelings, they carry associations, and they carry real weight. And this brilliantly illustrates how diction works in the real world. Think about how an author targets completely different audiences just by shifting their descriptive word choices. Take the elevated, somewhat antiquated diction in a classic novel like Wuthering Heights. It makes it perfectly suitable for older teenagers and adults, but it would be practically impossible for a young child to grasp. On the flip side, if you look at an academic paper written for experts, you're going to see complex, jargon-heavy diction designed to sound highly authoritative. The words literally dictate the vibe.
Now, what's really interesting here is this practical way to actually track your evidence. This is a dialectical journal model from the Gates Foundation. When you're reading, you can just sketch out this table. In the first column, you write down a significant word choice the author made. In the second column, you drop in the literal dictionary definition, the denotation, plus any hidden feelings or connotations that word carries. And finally, in the third column, you explain how the weight of that word impacts the overall mood of the text. It is a brilliant, foolproof way to organize your textual analysis.
Section 3. Structure, Form, and Lines. Let's look at the literal physical shape of the text.
So we're talking about structure and form. This means analyzing how a text is physically built and divided on the page. In poetry especially, this means looking very closely at the use of lines and stanzas. You see, analyzing structure means figuring out exactly how the physical arrangement of sentences and lines fits together to convey the author's ultimate message. To prove just how much this matters, imagine a quick thought experiment. What if we take a poem, chop it up, and give you the jumbled lines completely out of order? If you read them that way, the meaning totally shatters, right? The poem entirely loses its power. And that proves that an author's structure is never an accident. They put those lines in a very intentional order because the structure itself helps convey the tone and the meaning.
Check out this specific analytical example from a poem called Hour by Carol Ann Duffy. The very last two lines of this poem are composed entirely of 17 monosyllabic words. That's 17 single-syllable words in a row. As a literary detective, you have to stop and ask yourself, how does that rigid, structural choice physically shape the feeling of the text? Well, it forces you, the reader, to slow down. It makes every single word feel punchy and deliberate. The physical structure literally shapes the meaning.
Section 4. Metaphors, Similes, and Personification. Let's see how this all builds together.
We'll start with the simile, which I'm sure you're already familiar with. A simile is a comparison using the word like to connect one thing to another. But I really want you to think about it on a deeper level today. A truly great simile does something incredible. It brings larger, vastly more complex parts of the world directly into the miniature, contained space of the text.
Let's look at this line from poet Derek Walcott. The chapel's cowbell, like God's anvil. He is comparing a simple, everyday cowbell to God's anvil. He isn't just saying the cowbell is heavy, no. By bringing in the anvil, he brings in the idea of a massive, heavy, universe-shaping force. He charges his comparison with the widest possible range of meaning and resonance. It's huge.
Next up in our figurative language toolkit is personification. This is when an object or thing is given human attributes. But here's the secret to analyzing personification. You have to look for the surprise. It actually works best when the comparison is striking and idiosyncratic rather than something super familiar or cliché.
Consider this quote from Odysseus Elytis, and the sea playing on its concertina. A concertina, if you don't know, is a small accordion-like musical instrument. He personifies the sea as a musician playing this specific instrument. Now, why a concertina? Well, think about it. A concertina is played by squeezing it from both sides and pulling it outward, letting it expand and contract. That motion perfectly mimics the expanding, rolling motion of ocean waves. It's just a brilliant, surprising comparison that forces us to see the sea in a brand new way.
Section 5. Misconception and formative check. Now that your toolkit is packed, I want to challenge you with a pitfall that trips up a lot of beginner detectives.
Here is the question. Is a text or a poem ambiguous just because it is vague or seems to be missing meaning? Beginners often read a confusing poem and immediately think, oh, the author is just being open-ended. They want me to just use my imagination and fill in the blanks.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is this. True ambiguity in literature is deeply intentional. A lack of clarity isn't some magical blank space for you to just guess what the author meant. In most cases, if there is no meaning to be found, it's honestly just poor writing. Great authors exclude things on purpose to focus your attention, but they will always leave you that physical evidence, the diction, the structure, the figurative language, to guide you to the truth.
So here is a quick formative check for you to ponder as we start to wrap up. I want you to apply this to the very next piece of literature you read in class. How does the weight of one single specific word or the literal physical arrangement of a stanza on the page change the text's overall mood? Start looking at texts not as magical, impenetrable mysteries, but as carefully constructed puzzles just waiting for you to solve them.
Section 6. Recap of key concepts. Let's do a swift run-through so the main tools we've acquired today are completely fresh in your mind.
First, analyzing diction. That's weighing individual words and their hidden connotations to discover the tone. Second, structure and form, examining how lines and stanzas literally shape the author's message. And finally, figurative language, decoding the surprise in similes, metaphors, and personification. Grade 9, you are now fully equipped. The next time you open a book, don't just passively read it, investigate it. But ask yourself this, if every word and line is a deliberate choice, what secrets are hiding in your favorite song lyrics right now? Are those words just catchy, or are they carefully constructed evidence waiting to be analyzed? Go be literary detectives, and we'll see you next time.